Okay, I am Susan Hopper, and I do work in the office of the registrar. I worked with Sherry for years and years and years, and until this year I got to teach all of your writing labs. But they gave me a different job this year, and so I don't have time to teach your writing labs, and so I'm missing that. I hope you're learning a lot, working hard, but also having fun, because in my writing lab we had fun, but we worked really hard. I'm going to start with a very serious story. A Marine was stationed overseas, and he received a Dear John letter from his girlfriend back home, and it read, "Dear John, I can no longer continue our relationship. The distance between us is just too great. I must admit, I've cheated on you twice already. It's not fair to either of us, and I'm sorry. Please return the picture of me that I sent to you. Love, Sally." The Marine was deeply hurt. So he asked his fellow Marines for snapshots that they could spare of their girlfriends, sisters, ex-girlfriends, aunts, cousins, etc. In addition to Sally, John included all the pictures of all the girls he could find. There were 57 photos in the envelope. Along with this note, he sent them to Sally. "Sally, I'm so sorry, but I can't remember who you are. Please take your picture from the pile and send the rest back to me." No, that's funny. You know it is. All right. All right, we're going to talk about the catalog today. You should have one of these already. Now, if you have one that you were given in Gateway and you just didn't bring it today, then please return mine back to the box when you leave. If you got one in Gateway and now you have no idea where it is, go ahead and keep mine, okay? Because you need one of these. So I'd rather you have two than to not have one at all. My suggestion is that if you're keeping this one or you brought your own, that you put your name on it, because if you've noticed, they all look just alike. And so when your roommate's fighting for yours at the end of the semester, you can say, "No, it's got my name on it." So put your name on your catalog. This is a guide for you to follow, okay? It's an academic guide for you to follow. And it's very important that you understand what all is in here so that you can look for it later if you need it. And then there's some things that you need to know now that are in there. Every kind of academic information or question that you need answered is in this book. And so you need to keep this for the next 4 years, okay? Because this is the guide that you will follow. A new catalog will come out next fall. You don't have to worry about that one. This is your catalog, okay? We'll talk more about that in just a moment. I do want you to ask questions as we go. If you think of questions, the only thing I might say is if it's something I'm going to cover in a few moments, I might say hold that thought for a minute because I'm coming there. But stop me at any point and ask questions, okay? I don't want you to feel like you've got to save those to the end because you may forget something. And I can promise if you're thinking it, somebody else is too. So go ahead and stop me. All right, look in your catalogs. Let me just point out a couple of things to you first. The first few pages of the catalog, you'll see our mission statement, our core values, all of those things are in there. If you haven't already heard some of that, you need to look at that because that's what Union is all about. If you look on pages 9 and 10 in your catalog, and for those of you watching the video, the page numbers may have changed if you're in a different year's catalog, so I'll try to give you headings. On page 9 and 10, you're looking at the undergraduate catalog, okay? This is very important. This is going to tell you the last day to add a class, the last day you can drop a class, when you have breaks, all kinds of special things that are going on throughout the semester. So you should, right there you have fall, you have winter, and you have spring and summer on the next pages. So it tells you when final exams are, all those kinds of things. So it's very important that you pay attention to your calendar. Now the only thing is next fall, even though you won't switch catalogs, you will go by a different calendar, obviously. And that's always going to be on the web page. And all of this information actually is on the web page. And one year we actually tried not giving out paper catalogs because we thought y'all liked everything online, and everybody went crazy. They wanted a paper catalog, so we went back to printing catalogs. But it is online if you need to look up something online. All right, and if you'll notice on page 11 at the top, the little boxes there, final exam schedule, that's the final exam schedule. That will always be the same. And I'm assuming that toward the end of the semester that someone, Ms. Tigner or Ms. Watson or Ms. Abernathy, will go over how to read that final exam schedule with you to make sure you are in the right place at the right time, because you do not want to miss the final exam. So the calendar is there. All right. You should have in your hand a piece of white paper that's got some information on the front and the back. We're going to go through a lot of this information. There is so much in here, I'm going to move kind of quickly, but I want to make sure you understand what we're talking about. So as I said, stop me if you have any questions. All right, the first thing you're going to see, we're going to talk about repeating classes. This is not necessarily a page you need to look at in your catalog at this point, but if you need to repeat a class, let's say you don't do as well in a class this fall as you wanted to, and you want to repeat a class. You can repeat a class as many times as you want. Hopefully, though, once will be enough, because you pay for it every time. And you can repeat a class at another school. So if you're going home this summer, and there's a community college in town or four-year school in your hometown or nearby, and you want to repeat that class this summer, you can do that. What you want to do is make sure that you're taking the exact same course. So let's say you don't do as well in college algebra this semester as you wanted to, or in the spring, and you go home to take a math course. Don't just pick any math course. We've got to make sure it's actually college algebra, and most schools call it college algebra. So a lot of times you can tell just from the title of the course. But if it says intermediate algebra, not going to work. Or elementary algebra, not going to work. Even if it's a higher level course, it's not going to count. It's not going to help you repeat college algebra. You need that exact course, okay? When you repeat a course, do we average the grades? No. If you repeat a course here at Union, we do not average the grades together. The last grade that you make is the grade that counts. So let's say you make a C in college algebra in the spring, and you think, I could have done better than that. And you go home this summer, and you take college algebra at home at the community college, and you make a D because halfway through you thought, I don't want to do this, swimming sounds more fun. The D is what's going to count. So you always want to do your best. The last grade is the one that counts, and we do not average grades together, okay? So the original grade will always stay on your transcript. So even if you fail a course, which you're not going to, but even if you do, and you repeat that course here at Union in the spring, the F will no longer be calculated in your GPA, but it will always show on your transcript. It is always there. That's one of the many reasons why you want to avoid making bad grades, because even though we can get them out of your GPA, they will not come off your transcript. So even if you change majors and that's a course you no longer need and you made an F in the course, it will not come off your transcript. It is there. Once you sign up for that course and complete a course and get a grade, there's no going back. It's always there for someone to see. So that's why we want to avoid at all costs, one of the many reasons, making a bad grade. Okay, if you repeat a course at another school, how does that affect your GPA? Grades do not transfer from other schools to Union, okay? You have to make a C or above in that course at another school for it to transfer in. The hours transfer in, the grade does not. How does that help your GPA then? Because if you fail a course this spring and you want to repeat it at home this summer, we're going to transfer in those 3 hours, not the grade, but we can take that bad grade that you made at Union out of your GPA. So it does help your GPA. Now, if you take courses at home this summer that you did not take here at Union, they're all new courses, it is not going to affect your GPA at all. Even if you make all A's, it will not affect your Union GPA. Okay? Does that make sense? Questions about that? Yes?
So you're saying, like, we can't take any classes from Union, so it counts. So we have to take classes at Union for it to count.
For it to count in your GPA, yes. But she asked if you take classes somewhere else, will they count at Union? Yes, they will count at Union, but for them to count in your GPA at Union, you've got to take them at Union. But let's say you want to take one of your sciences at home this summer. You can take a science at home this summer and transfer in those hours, and you have credit for that, and it will count in what you need for graduation. Now, one of the things you want to do is make sure you're taking the right course. And we have forms in the Academic Center They're called application for transfer of credit. You don't have to request permission at this point. You will later, as a junior, have to request permission to take somewhere else. But there's a line on that form that says, I just want to make sure this is going to count. I'm asking for assurance purposes is what it says. I just want to make sure this is the right course. I need biology. Will this count as my biology? And then you'll get a form back from me in writing that says, absolutely, this is the right course, or no, don't take this class. It's not going to count. So you want to do that before you spend your money and before you spend your summer or your time taking a course somewhere else. Don't ever just charge off and take a class somewhere else without asking some questions first. And in most cases, Ms. Tigner can answer a lot of those questions for you, and you don't have to fill out the form. But if you're ever concerned and you want to know for sure, fill out the form and make sure. Okay? Did that answer your question? You can take courses at other schools, and they will count in your hours at Union, but they will not affect your GPA. All right? Any questions about that? Okay, majors. How many of you already know what you're going to major in? Raise your hand. Good. Quite a few of you. Okay. How many of you know what degree you get with your major? Raise your hand. Not so many. Okay. So, if you look on page 19, beginning on page 19, you will see all of the majors and the degree that you can get or must get with that major. At the very first one, art. The degree that's listed there is a BA, a Bachelor of Art. That's the only major you can get if you're an art major. Okay? If you look at the very next one that says Digital Media Studies, you can get a Bachelor of Art or a Bachelor of Science. You get to choose. So this is important information for you to know as to which degree you're going for. Business Administration, you get a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. So in some cases, you don't have a choice. In some cases, you do. If you're an engineering major, you're going to get a BSE, a Bachelor of Science in Engineering. If you're a nursing major, you're going to get a BSN. You don't have a choice. You're going to get a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. If you're a history major, you get a choice. You can do a Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science. That's up to you. And we're going to talk about the difference between those in a moment. So find your major on those 3 pages and look and see if you have options with your major or not. Because if you have options, then we're going to need to look at which one of these do I prefer, which one of these is going to be best for what I want to do, which one of these are the courses that I'm going to enjoy the most. Because in some cases, like I said, you can choose between a BS or a BA. Other times, though, it is specified for you. Now, the reason we want to go ahead and know this now is because you need to begin to see the big picture. Because you're going to be doing core, you're going to be doing specific core for your degree, no matter what that degree is. And then you're going to be doing your major and in almost all cases a minor. And we need to go ahead and start looking at the big picture. It's like looking at the picture on a box before you start to put together a jigsaw puzzle. You would never throw all those 500 pieces out on the table and not look at the picture on the box, would you? Because you're going nowhere fast, okay? Which brings me to a story. Have you ever heard about the blonde who, and I can do blonde jokes. Have you ever heard about the blonde who called her boyfriend and said, please come over and help me? I have a killer jigsaw puzzle and I can't even get started. He said, what's it supposed to look like when it's finished? And she said, a rooster. He said, okay, I'll be right over. So he goes over to help her with the puzzle, and she lets him in and shows her where she's spread out all the puzzle pieces out on the table. He looks at the pieces for a moment, and then he looks at the box, and then he looks at her and says, okay, first of all, no matter what we do here, we're not going to be able to assemble these pieces into anything that looks like a rooster. And secondly, honey, take a deep breath, and let's put all the cornflakes back in the box. Now, you know that was funny. All right. On page, let's look at page 27. Page 27. At the very bottom of the page on 27 where it says courses beyond the required general education core. Courses beyond the required general education core. It lists for you there the degrees that the majors that do not require a minor. Very few of you will have a major that doesn't require a minor because there are not very many that don't require minors, but there are a few, and you can see those there. Cell and molecular biology, chemical physics, engineering, sports medicine, digital media studies, etc. And the reason for that is they're very large majors. There's so many hours in that major. In order to complete all of the requirements for that major, there's just not enough time for you to do a minor. But in every other case, you're going to need a minor, except for the ones that are listed there. You're going to have a minor. So you might want to go ahead and be thinking about that. Not necessarily as important to know now or to choose pretty soon as your major, but it's something to be thinking about. And in most cases, you can choose anything you want to across the school as a minor. There are a few exceptions where they have some suggestions they want you to use, or there are some you can't use. A lot of departments will not let you major and minor within the same department. So those are the kinds of things that you'll be talking to your advisor about. You can ask Ms. Tigner, Ms. Watson, Ms. Abernathy about what kinds of things can I choose from to pick my minor, okay? So those are listed there for you to begin looking at. Now, let's talk about the catalog, the fact that next year there's going to be a new catalog. Every year we do a new catalog. And in some cases, the major will change. So, for example, if you are a communications major, your major this year may look one way. And they may decide throughout this year that they want to adjust that major. And they may want to take out 3 of those classes they currently require and put in 4 new ones. Do you have to go with the new major in the new catalog? No, you do not. If in the next 4 years your department decides to add a course to your major, you do not have to take that course. You can choose to. You can choose at any time to move to a new catalog, but you are never, ever forced to do so. Do not ever buy the fact that you have to take a course that was not in your catalog. Which brings me to another point. Don't take advice, academic advice, from other students. I know they look like they know what they're talking about, but sometimes they don't. Because sometimes if they're an upperclassman, what was required in their catalog is different from what's required in your catalog. They don't know that, okay? Or they may be a special circumstance where they had to take this course and you don't. So don't ever sign up for a course because another student told you to do so. Always check your catalog, check with your advisor, check with someone in the academic center to make sure that that's a course you really need. If you're ever in question, check it out. Don't assume that if they're right. Even if your advisor tells you something that you think, that doesn't seem quite right, check it out. Come to the academic center and ask us. Go to the dean's office and ask them. There's always someone that can give you a straight answer, and you keep asking until you get that. But you will get a straight answer in the academic center. So if you come in there and ask, we will find the right person to answer your question. And the academic center is located just behind Union Station. Ms. Tigner's office is on one side of Union Station. The door just on the other side, closest to the chapel, is the academic center. And if you come in there, there are ladies at the counter that if they can't answer your question, they will find one of us and we can answer that for you, okay? So don't ever just assume that you're supposed to take something because someone else said you were. All right, look on let's go back to page 25 and 26. This is very important information. On page 25, it says General Core Requirements for all bachelor's degrees. General Core Requirements. This is your general core that you are to take, regardless of what you are doing. Now, how many of you are getting licensed to teach? Anybody? Okay, if you're in education and you're getting licensed to teach, there are a few adjustments that are made here. You don't necessarily have all the same options that someone else has because they want you to take a particular math or a particular science, or your history may be a little different. So if you're in education, be sure and follow what the education department tells you to do. Otherwise, though, you're following the plan that is right here, this general core. These are the hours you need to take, okay? And I'm not going to go through all of these. Some of these you're in now. When you get ready to register for spring, many of these courses are what you're going to be looking at to register for spring. If you're in Written Comp 1 now, it only makes good sense to go ahead and take Written Comp 2 in the spring. If you're in a history now, go ahead and take the other history in the spring and go ahead and finish up those requirements. But you should keep this in front of you when you get ready to register. Mark off the classes that you have had so that you know the ones that you have left to take. This is very important because these are required of you. All right, so everybody does general core. And then, as I was saying a while ago, with your degree, you're required to do a specific core. Bachelor of Arts specific core is right below the general core. If you decide to get a Bachelor of Arts, then you're going to do that specific core on top of your general core. Okay? You've got a couple of options there. So you will look at those two options and decide which one you prefer to do. All right? The next page is the specific core for the Bachelor of Science. If you're getting a Bachelor of Science, again, you have two options within that specific core, and you can choose either option that you like best. But you must do a specific core for your degree. The specific core for the Bachelor of Science in Business Administration is there. There are no options. That's what you take. Social work is there. Engineering is there. And in all of those, there are not any options. They just tell you what courses you need to take. So, the only other one that's slightly different that you want to pay real close attention to is probably nursing. Do we have any nursing majors in the house? Okay. Nursing is going to, if they haven't already, they're going to give you a list of the courses they want you to take. And you can look in the catalog in the nursing department, and it gives you all of your classes that you'll be taking for the nursing major. So what you want to do is make sure you're taking the right courses for you, not the right courses for your roommate, because they may be getting a different degree. So make sure that you're following the catalog that works best for you. All right, then you're going to look for the specific requirements in your major and minor. So, for example, look with me at page 167. Let me just show you a couple of these. I'm just looking at the School of Theology and Missions. There are 6 possible majors in the School of Theology and Missions. And as you can see right there, they are outlined for you every course you need to take. Now, in some cases, you have a few you can choose from. And so you get to pick some electives and things within your major, the things that interest you most, but many of them are lined out for you, and that's just what you take. If you'll notice in, for example, the School of Theology and Missions, at the top it says the core requirements, and there's 18 hours there. Every person that's a major in this particular school will take those 18 hours. It's a part of every major. And then you add to that the other requirements for either Biblical Studies Languages, Christian Ministry and Missions, Christian Studies, Christian Thought and Tradition, Philosophy, or Sports Management. Okay? So you're going to take that 18 hours and then you're going to add to that what the other requirements are to complete your major. So in some cases, your major is very planned out for you, and in some cases you have some electives you get to choose from in that area. Let me show you another one. Look on page 111. Looking at the psychology major. It's going to look very different. Look at page 111. Psychology major at the top of the page. If you noticed on the theology and missions majors, some of them were as large as 52 hours for the major itself. If you look at psychology, it's a 33-hour major. And there's only one to choose from. So there are not as many choices there, and it's not quite as detailed as the School of Theology and Missions. But again, your requirements are there, and it's your responsibility to know what those requirements are. Yes, your advisor should know, and yes, your advisor should be able to help you, but it's ultimately your responsibility to know what you're supposed to take. So the best thing again to do is to get your catalog, look at everything that's required of you, either use this catalog as a checklist or make your own checklist, and keep up with what you were supposed to have taken for your major to make sure that you don't come up your senior year and discover that, well, I didn't pay any attention to that, so 9 of those hours that I'm supposed to have I never took. Now we have a problem. So pay attention to the catalog and what is in there and what you're required to do. So you're going to do general core, specific core, major, and minor. A few of you won't do a minor. Most of you will. Okay, all of that together is going to equal at least 128 hours, if not more. And 128 hours is what you are required to have to graduate. Questions about general core, specific core, majors, minors?
Ms. Hoffman, what will happen if my advisor tells me a wrong course and I take it?
Ms. Tigner, if your advisor tells you a wrong course and you take it, we have a problem. No, we will fix it. If your advisor gives you bad advice, we will somehow fix that. And in some cases, there's nothing we can do but make you go back and take the right course, because it's a requirement for state laws. If you're in education or if you're in nursing or something like that, you have to have that particular class. In most cases, we can work something out and create a substitution where we substitute the course you weren't supposed to take for one you really were supposed to take. So, follow the advice of your advisor. If you get bad advice, we will take care of it. Does that answer your question, Ms. Tigner? Yes?
Is that if we're registering later than, I guess, later than when we're supposed to, like on November 15th or 16th?
Yes?
Is there like a such thing as like a waiting list for a class? Because I know a lot of people sometimes go in and just drop it because they don't want to take it.
Yes, good question. She asked if there are such things as waiting lists on some classes in case when she gets ready to register that class is closed, because oftentimes people will register for a class and then later drop it. Some courses have waiting lists, not all courses. That's up to the individual instructor and department as to whether they're going to do that. Some courses will have waiting lists, and what happens if you get on the waiting list, you will get an email. If your name comes up, if you're the second or third person on that waiting list and 2 or 3 people drop, you get an email that says you can now register for this course, and you have like 48 hours to register for the class. Your email tells you exactly how much time. If you at that point decided you don't want to, then your time expires and somebody else gets notified. You can register for this class. So yes, some will have waiting lists. Yes?
If you have classes that are in your general core as well as your specific core, does it count towards both? Or did you say?
Excellent question. All right, this is a good question. She says if there are classes in your general core and specific core that are the same, can I count them in both places? Sadly, the answer is no. But there are some times when you can count a course in 2 places. Now, this gets a little confusing, so we might as well just do this now. All right, the general core and the specific core. Let's say that they're on one side of a coin, okay? General and specific core on one side of a coin, major and minor on the other sides of the coin, okay? You can count a course on one side of the coin and on the other side of the coin, but not on the same side of the coin. So you cannot count a course in your general core and your specific core. You cannot count a course in your major and your minor. But you can count a course from your general core in your major or your minor, and specific core in your major and your minor. Let me say that one more time. On one side of the coin, general core and specific core. On the other side of the coin, major and minor. You can flip a course between the 2 sides, but not on the same side. Does that make sense? Sort of? That's very confusing. And we get asked that all the time. And when you're a senior, you're still going to ask that question. Can this course count twice? Because it's very confusing. But within your major and minor, you cannot count it twice, and within specific core and general core, you cannot count it twice. Now, if it's the same course, you're just going to use something else. For example, if you're a Bachelor of Science and you took psychology to count in your general core, it can also count in your specific core. You're just going to choose which place you want to use it, and you're going to take something else in its place in the other one. You always have a choice of where you want to count it, because sometimes there's a course you really want to take that will fulfill that space. And so you can always count it somewhere else. That answer your question? Sort of? Kind of? Okay. Speaking of coins, I have a funny story. This is a true story. This is not a joke. This is a true story. My nephew, my sister and her family were missionaries overseas. And so she homeschooled, my sister homeschooled her children. My nephew didn't do so well in the whole homeschooling situation. When they came back to the States, he was going to be in the 3rd grade. Only they put him in the 2nd grade. So he went around telling everybody that asked him, Zachary, are you in the 3rd grade? He would say, no, I got some bad homeschooling. So I'm in the 2nd grade. So he's in the 2nd grade, and his teacher gives him a math problem. She gives them each a set of coins and gives them a math problem, and they're supposed to come up with 2 answers or 2 sets of coins. So they work their little math problem, and she's going around and she's checking everybody's coins. And so you're supposed to have, 60 cents over here and 35 cents over here or whatever. So she's going around checking everybody. Well, she gets to my little sweet nephew, and he has 3 groups of coins. She's like, okay, I don't understand. You have 2 problems. You're supposed to have 2 piles of coins. What is this 3rd pile of coins? And he says, I had to take my tithe out first. True story. Luckily, she went to church and tithed, and she understood what he was talking about, and she gave him credit for his answers anyway. So, all right. Okay. Look back on page 23. I know I'm jumping around, but this is really the best order to do this in. On page 23, it says graduation requirements. Listed there are all the things you have to do in order to graduate, outside of taking the right courses. Graduation requirements. It tells you how many hours are supposed to be in your general core and specific core, the minimum that can be in a major and a minor. All of that's listed for you there. The number of hours that are required, 128 hours. It also talks about testing there and how many hours you can count in testing. So let's talk about testing. 32 hours can be used as far as testing, AP credits, those kinds of things. If you took dual enrollment courses in high school, any of you do that? Dual enrollment courses in high school? Make sure that you have contacted the university that taught those courses or that was in charge of doing those classes, and that you have had a transcript sent to Union. We do not take the dual enrollment credit you received in high school from a high school transcript. We must have the transcript from the college. So make sure if you haven't done that already that you do that, because we need to get that on an official college transcript, and you have to have it sent directly to the academic center. Anytime you take a course anywhere else, you're going to have a transcript sent to Union, and you want to have it sent directly to the academic center. If it comes to you and you bring it in, it's no longer official, and you've wasted your time. We've got to do it all over again. So make sure if you take courses anywhere else, you always have us a transcript sent. But you can take CLEP tests, and you can transfer those onto your transcript. Again, you don't get grades for CLEP tests. It's kind of like taking a course somewhere else, but you do get the hours. You can earn 3, 4, and sometimes 6 hours for a CLEP test. And all of those are listed in your catalog on pages 36 and 37. So if you're interested in taking CLEP or Dante's, you can take either one of those, and you can get credit for those. So if you know you've got a really strong background in algebra, for example, there's a CLEP test you can take. And for, I don't know, $75 or whatever it is now, you get credit, 3 hours credit for taking that. And you did it in an hour and a half as opposed to a whole semester. So CLEP tests are a good thing if you know that's something that you have a strong background in. People that have had a strong background in foreign languages can CLEP out of a year of foreign language. If you take the test and you make a certain score. You do have to make a certain score to CLEP out of it. But you can go online on our webpage and just type in Testing Center, or go to Current Students in Testing Center. It gives you all the information about how to take a CLEP test. You can sign up online. You can even take a CLEP test at home somewhere else this summer. Just make sure you have your scores sent to Union. It's not something you have to do on our campus. So if you decide you want to take something this summer at home, you want to study for a couple of weeks before you take it, you're not doing anything else this summer as far as schoolwork, you study, you go pass your CLEP test, you have the score sent to Union, that course is done. So that's a good thing if you have a strong background in something. Now, there are some things I would never attempt to CLEP because I just don't, chemistry, I'm not CLEPing chemistry because that's a waste of my $75 right there because I'm not going to pass that test. But there are some I might could pass, and so be reasonable about it, when you start into taking a test, that it's something you actually feel like you can do well in and pass before you spend your money and time doing that. Okay. Any questions about testing, transferring courses in, those kinds of things before we move on to another topic? Okay. Drops and adds. We do have deadlines, as you already know. You've experienced this, deadlines for adding classes. If you wait till after the deadline to add a class, you can't add a class. And the reason for that is they've already met for a week or a week and a half. And it's just ridiculous to think that you're going to jump in there into the end of the second week and catch up with everybody else. And so that's why we have a limit that's pretty soon after school starts. It's usually 1 week. This year it was a week and a couple of days that you can add a class, because we don't want, it's not fair to you to say, yeah, you can go in there and add that class when we know you're going to be behind, okay? And then there's a limit on when you can drop a class. You can drop a class fairly early in the semester and have it not show up at all on your transcript. If you choose to drop it later in the semester, there's a DR for drop that shows on your transcript, but it does not hurt you in any way. It does not affect your GPA in any way. It does not look bad to another school or to a graduate school in any way. But there is a record that you were in the course for quite a while and you dropped the class. The only problem with dropping classes is the longer you stay in that class, the more money you pay for that class, because they prorate out your tuition. So you're going to pay a certain percentage depending on how long you took up space in that class that somebody else could have had. So if you know you're going to drop a class, do it soon. Otherwise, you're going to pay for that. And the other thing you don't want to do is drop below 12 hours. You want to have 12 hours so you'll be full-time. It affects financial aid. It affects living in housing. It affects playing a sport. If you pledged a sorority or fraternity, all kinds of things require that you have at least 12 hours. So never drop below that without checking some other things out first. In many cases, it affects whether or not you have health insurance. Your parents' health insurance requires that you be full-time in most cases. So don't ever just drop without checking those things out, because you could find yourself in a little bit of a mess if you do that. Withdrawing from school, probably not anything you'll ever do, but just in case you have to at some point withdraw from school, lots of reasons people do that. They get sick, someone at home gets sick, various things happen. You can do that within 11 weeks of the semester, but there is a process you must go through to withdraw from school. And the best thing for you to do is to go to Union Station and ask them. They'll start the process for you at Union Station. Do not ever pack up and go home without going through the withdrawal process. Do you know what happens if you pack up and go home without going through the withdrawal process? You're going to disappear from school. You're not going to take final exams. You're not going to have taken the last tests. You're going to get Fs in all of your classes, and there's nothing we can do about it. And you're going to pay for the whole semester. And you're going to pay for a room. So don't do that. Make sure you go through the correct process. And again, start at Union Station. They can get you going in the right direction. In fact, they can get you going in the right direction with almost any question you ever have, and you already know that because most of you have been there. All right. Priority registration tips. Let me run through these real quickly, and then I want to look at the calculation of the GPA sheet that you have. I'm sure they've already gone over this with you as far as priority registration, but I just want to make sure you understand what to do, okay? First of all, you've got to know who your advisor is. If you don't know who your advisor is, one of these three ladies can look that up on the computer, or again, you can go to Union Station and they'll tell you. But everyone has an advisor assigned to them, so make sure you know who that is. You want to go to your advisor's office and make an appointment to see them if you have not done that already. They don't just sit around and wait for you to come by. You want to sign up for an appointment. That way you have their undivided attention. They know you're coming. They're prepared for you to come. And you have, in most cases, 30 minutes to talk to them about what you want to take next semester. You want to make sure you do not have any holds on your account. It can be money that you owe. You can have a medical hold. They've been asking you to get some form in that shows them you've had some shot and you hadn't done it. Now's the time. You're going to have to before you can register. It can be a judicial hold. None of you, I'm sure, have those, but that's when you've gotten in trouble with somebody and they've said you can't register, but that's not going to happen. I think an admission hold. There again, admissions is waiting, enrollments, waiting on something that you're supposed to have turned into them that you haven't gotten. They're going to force your hand to do that because they've got to have it, and they're not going to let you register until you do that. Okay? Now, once you take care of any of those holds, they will take that hold off. It may take them a couple of hours, depending on how busy they are, particularly if it's money, because they're bombarded with money people right now. But within that day, they will get your hold off so that you can register. If you sit up till midnight the night you can register, it's 12:10 and you're online and you've gotten all your classes in there and you're so excited and you hit register and it says, oh, you have a hold, you're going to be mad. And everyone else is going to get your classes that you wanted. So make sure before the day you can register that you've taken care of all those holds. And don't wait till the last day. If it's a money hold and your parents are going to have to do something about it, you can't, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's too late. It's going to be tomorrow and everybody else will have registered during the night and you're left out. So make sure you get those things taken care of. The other thing, before you go see your advisor, look at the schedule online. You can go to our webpage, go to current students, and it'll give you the schedule for both winter and spring. And you can look at that. Just like I was saying earlier, if you're in history now and you want to take history in the spring, you can look and see who's teaching and what times they are, and you can say, this is kind of the one I think I want to take. Or if you know that you're going to take a math in the spring and you've heard everybody talking about their math teacher and they love him, you can say, I want to take him. Otherwise, when you come in to see your advisor, we're just going to have to do the best we can with putting you a schedule together. And it may not be times you like, and it may not be teachers you like. But if you've already looked at that, you have the upper hand. And you can say, these are the times I want, and these are the teachers I want. Now, you always want to have a backup plan, because that class may be closed. Because if Mr. So-and-so is the math teacher everybody wants, then his class is going to close fast. So you should always have right there ready a backup plan. If I can't get this class, I want this class. And have those all worked out and ready so that when you get in there and you're registering and it's 12:30 in the morning, you're not having to start all over again, picking out all new sections of these courses to register for. And do they see you ladies for advisors, or do they see advisors in their majors? Both. Okay. So you already know and understand that process, I'm assuming. So you want to make sure you've done all of that so that you can register. You've got an email about priority registration that gives you all these instructions. You have an email that tells you how to do it online. Make sure you've looked at that before midnight. I mean, you don't have to wait up till midnight, but I'll just tell you everybody does. So if you don't, then selection is slimmer the next day. Not closed, but slimmer. So make sure you know how to do that. And then the other question we get asked a lot is that you register based on your classification, whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. If you came in with some hours by any chance, you may have 24 hours earned, but probably not. At this point in your first semester, it's hard to have 24 hours earned. It does not count what you're taking now. They must be earned, completed, graded hours. That's how your classification is decided. So all of you right now are freshmen. Depending on how many hours you take in the spring and perhaps over the summer, you may move into being a sophomore sooner than other people, but it's based on what you've completed, earned hours, okay? It includes AP tests and things like that, though. So, okay. Questions about any of that before we look at calculating your GPA?
Can I take a 300 or 400 level class?
You may not, because you're a freshman. You can only take classes that are your level and one level above. So if you're a freshman, you can take 100 and 200. If you're a sophomore, you can take 100, 200, or 300. So you can't take upper level classes yet. Yes?
How many hours do you need to take before you're classified as a sophomore?
24 hours makes you a sophomore. Good question. 24 hours earned makes you a sophomore. Yes?
When we register that night, do we find out like that night that we got those classes, or
Yes.
it'll just say that you got like your...
It will. When you register and you hit submit, it's going to say you have successfully registered for these courses. Or it may say you've registered for all of these courses except this one. And if that happens, register for everything you can online that night, and then come to Union Station the next morning or to Ms. Tigner's office and say, I registered for all these, but for some reason I couldn't get in this course. It may be, there are various reasons why that might happen, but don't ever just back out completely and not register for anything. If you can register, register for everything you can, and then we will make right the other situation the next morning, if possible. Okay? Other questions about registration? Okay. All right, look at very quickly at the GPA page that I gave you. It's green. How to calculate your GPA. Now, obviously, the computer does this for you. When you see your grades, it's already calculated. But what I find is that sometimes students want to say, okay, what if I happen to make this grade or this grade? How will that change my GPA? How will that affect my GPA? So sometimes you want to do your own calculations just to speculate what might be going to happen. So I'm going to let you look at this and take this. I'm going to walk through this with you, but I'm going to ask that you fill out the bottom of it and bring it back to your next class and let Ms. Tigner and Ms. Watson and Ms. Abernathy take these from you. So you're going to want to put your name on these and do this on your own later. But let me just show you. Grade points and hours attempted are how we determine GPA. Hours attempted includes everything that you are taking. And if you make an F in a class, that is still hours attempted. Because you're going to see on your grade reports, you're going to see hours attempted, hours actually earned, and the grade. All right? But you always want to use the ones attempted, which occasionally is not the same as the ones earned, sadly enough. So, then you look at the grade points. They're determined by the grade that you receive. So if you get an A in a class, you get 4 grade points. If you get a B, it's 3, a C is 2, a D is 1, and F, that you don't get any grade points. Okay? So if you make an A, that's 4 grade points. If it's a 3-hour class, you multiply the 4 grade points by the 3 hours in the class to get your 12 grade points. Okay? Look at the first example there. English 111, it's a 3-hour class. I made a B in the class, so a B gets 3, says right above there. So I'm going to multiply the 3 hours by the 3 grade weight points and get 9 points. Okay? Psychology is 3 points. I made an A, so I get my 4 points, so 3 times 4 is 12. My fitness for health class is only 1 hour, but I made an A, but I get 4 points for that because I made an A. So you multiply the number of hours by the weight of the grade to get your grade points. Okay? If you don't have one of these green sheets, there should be plenty. We'll make sure you get one before you leave. All right, once you get your grade points and your hours attempted added up, you're going to divide your grade points by the hours attempted. Okay? So you're going to take the grade points, divide by the hours attempted. So for example, here we had 36 grade points, 14 attempted hours. I made a 2.57 because I divided 36 by 14. I got a 2.57. Now, look if we change 1 grade. If I did not make an A in psychology, but I made an F in psychology, I still have to add that 3 hours in there because it's 3 hours I attempted, but I no longer get any grade points. So now, instead of dividing 14 into 36, I only have 24 grade points. I still have 14 attempted hours, so now I have a 1.71. So you can see how much damage an F does to your GPA. A lot of damage. So what I want you to do is to fill in the bottom part of this before you come back to class the next time. List all of your courses, list hours attempted, the grade you think you're going to make, because you don't know yet, the weight of that grade, just like I've done above, the grade points that are there, and then figure out what you think your GPA is going to be at the end of this semester. And I want you at the next class period to have filled that out, put your name on it, and turn it in. Because I want you to look and see, what do I really think my GPA is going to be? And be realistic, okay? It's your first semester in college. Most of you are not going to make all A's. It doesn't happen, okay? You're getting used to everything. You're figuring out how it's all going. So don't just say I'm going to have a 4 point. Be realistic about what you think you're really going to make in your classes and figure out your GPA. Questions about doing the GPA? Or about what I want you to do? No? Any questions at all about anything we've talked about? Well, y'all are just smarter as a whip. You just picked it all right up. Yes?
I already had the question answered, but I kind of want a clearer answer.
Okay.
If you have transfer hours, but there isn't a class equivalent here, and you get lower level electives, those are pretty much like free hours if you can find a replacement class to use those hours for, correct?
Sort of. He asked, if I transferred in hours that there's not an equivalent for here at Union, You get lower level elective hours. So let's say, for example, you took classes at another school in fashion design. We don't have that major here. We'll transfer in those hours if they're from an accredited school, but we're going to give you elective hours for them because we don't have any specific thing we can count those for. Those elective hours count towards your 128 hours, but they really will not, they're not going to fulfill any specific requirement that you are required to have. Okay? So, and sometimes that happens even in departments where we have classes. Just this week I worked with a student who had taken a computer science class at another school. It transferred in as an elective because it was a computer science that we don't teach anything like that particular class here. So I couldn't give her specific credit for that. It only counts as an elective. So again, it will count toward her 128 hours, but it's not going to fulfill any specific requirement that she had in her computer science major. So those things do happen. And again, for classes you have not taken yet, that's one of the main reasons you want to make sure before you take them that they really are going to count for what you think they're going to count for here at school. Other questions?
Ms. Hopper, I heard that Computers 105 would count for the math grades. In a specific course?
As a math course, Computer Science 105 will not count as a math course. But it will count in a specific core.
That's what it is.
Yes, it will count in your specific core. In fact, it will count in the BA specific core or the BS specific core. And if you're a business major, it's required. It's in your core. So Computer Science 105 is a good class to have. Plus, it's just a good class to have. Other questions? Ms. Tigner got a lot of questions, doesn't she? Anybody else? Oh, yes.
If I have a Spanish minor and a TESOL major, my hours for Spanish will count as my specific requirement.
Or specific core?
Or yeah, specific.
Yes, they will. Because that specific core is on one side of the coin and your minor's on the other, and we can count both sides. Yes, your minor, if you're a foreign language minor, those can count in your specific core. Good question. Anyone else? Okay, I got one more little thing to share with you. I know you're ready. Okay, little Leroy came into the kitchen where his mother was making dinner. His birthday was coming up and he thought this was a good time to tell his mother what he wanted. Mom, I want a bike for my birthday. Little Leroy was a bit of a troublemaker, and he'd gotten in trouble at school that same day. So his mother asked him if he thought he deserved to get a bike for his birthday, and of course he thought he did. But she, being a nice Christian woman, decided that he needed to reflect on his behavior for the last year, and particularly for that day. So she said, I want you to write a letter to God and tell him why you deserve to get a bike for your birthday. Well, it kind of made him mad. He stomped upstairs to his room, but he got his paper out and decided to write a letter. Letter number 1, Dear God, I've been a very good boy this year, and I would like a bike for my birthday. I want a red one. Your friend Leroy. He kind of figured this wasn't really good, wasn't true, so he decided to tear that up and start over. Dear God, letter number 2, this is your friend Leroy. I've been pretty good this year. I would like a red bike for my birthday. Thank you, Leroy. Yeah, he kind of figured that wasn't going to work either. That wasn't really true either, so he started again. Number 3, Dear God, I've been an okay boy this year, and I would really like a red bike for my birthday. Leroy. Yeah, no, he tore that one up too. Number 4, Dear God, I know I haven't been a good boy this year. I'm very sorry. I'll be a good boy if you'll just let me have a red bike for my birthday. He knew that even if this was true, this letter was not going to get him a bike. So by now, he's very frustrated and upset. He goes downstairs and tells his mother he wants to go to church. She thought her plan had worked. Leroy was going to go confess at church. He said, I'll be home in time for dinner. So he walked down the street to the church. He walked all the way up to the altar. He looked around to make sure no one was around. He saw a statue of the Virgin Mary. He grabbed it, he slipped it under his shirt, and he ran out of the church. He ran home, he ran all the way upstairs, he grabbed his paper and his pen, and he wrote this. Dear God, I got your mama. If you want to see her again, send the bike. Thanks. Bye.